Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Human Potential Channel. As those of you that have seen our show know, our goal is to bring the life experiences of our guests to your attention and give you a perspective on what they've learned from their life. Although I've had many people on the show with a real estate and investment background because that's been my career path, it's not about that. This show is not about investment advice. It's for introspection, entertainment, and consideration only. So today I've got a guest that I met through a lender. As a matter of fact, we were on a webinar together. And after that, we connected. It's been some wonderful experiences we've shared in chatting. I thought this gentleman has some stories well worth hearing. He's had some great successes and some challenges that I think you'll say are amazing. So, hey, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell our guests your story. How did you get here? Why are we even able to talk to one another today?
Well, Dave, thank you very much for having me. And hopefully the entertaining part of that introduction will be true, because there's nothing worse than having a guest on and him being humdrum. So I hold myself to a standard of not being humdrum. So hopefully I can give you some entertainment. And like you had said, we had met through a Zoom from a potential lender that we were both looking at. And how did I get there, Dave? How did I get to being an entrepreneur for 30 years and being on a Zoom call with you, potentially doing lending and brokerage? So my story is vast. I'm going to bring it, down to a compact as I can to, again, make it entertaining and keep you riveted, hopefully, to your
Poignant.
YouTube.
We'll call it poignant.
Yes, that's
The high spots and the
thank
low
you very
spots.
much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I started out entrepreneur for over 30 years. I went to Seton Hall for finance in New Jersey. I come from an entrepreneurial background. My mom and dad had an Italian restaurant in a local town in Brick, New Jersey. The restaurant business right away, Dave, I knew wasn't for me. But I liked the entrepreneurial aspect of it. I liked the fact that my mom and dad owned their own thing. I liked the fact that I was a little different than every other person that I played with or knew. I didn't know why I liked it, but I did. So going through high school and, being athletic and doing all the sports stuff and, planning for college, I stopped all my sports my senior year because I knew that I wanted to go into finance, believe it or not. So I was accepted at the Seton Hall, got into their finance program, and I was going to be the next Gordon Gekko. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Greed is good.
Greed is good. Now, for those of you that have no idea who Gordon Gekko is, go and Google it. Just like Dave just said, greed is good, and that was the go-go 80s. And nothing was going to stop me. I was going to make millions. The word billions wasn't even around back then. And I was off and running, but got through Seton Hall, did pretty well, got out of Seton Hall, and I went right to Wall Street, and it was a disaster in the fact that I couldn't do what they wanted me to do. I couldn't sell stuff that I had no idea what it was to my friends, family, loved ones. That just wasn't me. And I'm going to step back a little bit, because through Seton Hall, my mom and dad's restaurant had slowed down. So the way that I was able to afford Seton Hall, because my dad looked at me and said, listen, I love you. Your sister, her education is paid for. The well's running out. The restaurant is not doing so well. So, you can come home to county college, which I was not going to do, or you can figure it out. Well, I figured it out. And the way I figured it out is I worked multiple jobs. And one of the jobs was I worked for a bread company delivering bread overnights, which was perfect because I could drive, I can do work, and I could go to school. And never thought that would ever turn into anything. It was just a great job, paid me well, and I kind of liked it. The bread was phenomenal. Fast forward, got out of Seton Hall, went to Wall Street. That's a disaster. Call my dad up. I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm going to come home. And he's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, why don't we start a business? and we put our heads together. He was tired of the restaurant business. I hated the restaurant business.
Yeah.
So I had said, listen, I have this bread route. I go to all these hundreds of restaurants and delis. Why don't we make stuff? And, my dad was from Italy. I said, you have a lot of contacts in Italy. Why don't we import stuff and sell it to them? Great idea. Let's do that. And that's what we did. And we did that for a couple of years. The business was going well. But Dave, just like any other business, it was a struggle. And 2 years into it, my dad was 49 years old. I went into the restaurant, which was also our office, one day, and my dad was on the ground. And he had, I didn't know it at the time, but he had a brain aneurysm. Brought him to the hospital. They said he was going to be fine. That night he passed away. He was 49. I was 23.
Wow, young man.
Yeah, he was very young. So what am I going to do? My dad was not only the restaurant owner, he was the chef, he was the bookkeeper, he was, you name it, he was it. And if he wasn't it, my mom was the other part. So my mom was the hostess, the waitress. She ran the front of the house. My dad ran the back. So without my dad, the restaurant had half its staff. So we had to close. The great thing, Dave, was that my father and mother, even though they argued about it, they had purchased the property that the restaurant was on. Smartest thing my dad ever did. Smartest thing. And some of the things growing up, I was one of those freaky kids that, I played sports, but I didn't watch sports a lot. I was watching back then, the financial channels and how to get rich with buying real estate. So I knew it was a smart move for my dad to buy it. I didn't know how smart.
Yeah.
So again, long story short, everybody, all my dad's professionals, attorney, the accountants, they're all telling me, John, you're not smart enough. You don't know the restaurant business. Just sell the building, whatever money you can get out of it, pay all your vendors and you'll be fine. And I'm like, well, guys, if I sell the building, which it was 1992 when my dad passed away, Dave, the economy was not good, right? So the value of the property, which was 7 acres on, a very nice highway in Bricktown, I'm like, I just saw the vision. I'm like, this is going to be worth so much money someday. Today, it's not. But regardless, I'm 23. My mom's looking at me. What are we going to do? My sister just got married. She's got a kid on the way. And I'm like, the world is on my shoulders. And I'm like, well, we're not going to sell. That's for sure. We're not doing that. So we closed the restaurant. I had to sell the distribution company because I couldn't do it without my dad. He was the one that had all the contacts in Italy. He spoke Italian. Unfortunately for me, I never learned that part. So I sold that business for pennies, Dave. But it was the first business I sold. I'm proud of that. But
you learned a lot.
And I did learn a lot. I learned a lot from that. And I had said to my mom, listen, I'm just going to go work on the bread truck because I was making good money and we're going to figure it out. We leased the restaurant to another restaurant so our mortgage could get paid. I said, because we're not selling. It was one of those times, unlike today, that the, real estate ebbs and flows. Nobody knows that better than you. You've been in it for a very long time. And, back in 93, it was one of the ebbs, not the flows. So, and I knew it would change.
I ebbed right out of business at that time. So
yeah, right. It was a tough time. It was a tough time. And I refused to listen to the professionals that had said, just sell, pay off debt and get out. So I went to work for the bread company and we put a restaurant in there. They pay their lease every month, which was great. And I had said, what am I going to do? Right. A finance degree. Like I need to do something. I'm not going to work on a bread truck my whole life.
And you're really just a kid, you're just a kid still.
23 years old. Yeah.
I mean,
no doubt. I was definitely young. I thought I knew everything, as we all do, Dave, at 20 something years old.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything. And I did know my father, God bless his soul, taught me a lot. So any meetings he had with banks, I was at. Any meetings with accountants, I was at. Any meetings with business people that that were smarter than my dad, he always wanted to learn, I was at. Now, I might have been young at the time. I might have been playing with a train or something on the ground, but I was always there for these meetings throughout my life up until 23. And I got to be honest with you, it was the smartest thing my dad ever did. I don't even know if he knew what he was doing. I just was with my dad all day and my sister was with my mom. But just going to those meetings and kind of half listening to what they're talking about. And then when I got old enough, let's say 12, 13, 14, kind of understanding what they were talking about. And my dad had a broken accent, so I was able to help him most of the time in these meetings. They would be like, Ezio, I don't really understand what you're saying. And I'd be like, well, he means this, 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 and this. Oh, okay, John, thank you. Because we couldn't understand your dad.
You're a 12-year-old interpretive consultant.
Yes.
See, you were already brilliant at 12 and you didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. So the gentleman that owned the bread route was a friend of mine. And he said, hey, are you interested in buying part of the route? Because I'm looking at, downsizing. And I thought about it and I'm like, can I see the numbers? What are we doing? And I kind of knew because I was delivering it every day. And I'm like, this sounds like a good, for now, sure. He gave me a number. I didn't have the money because we were in a bad way. I was still slowly paying off the vendors because I was not going to let my mom go bankrupt. And I went to friends and family and I got the money for the route, paid him, paid my family off monthly. They were all scared. It was a true closing day with family, going to the lawyers and getting, nobody believed in me. 0 people believed in me except for my mother. My mom knew, she's like, just trust John. He'll figure it out. And I did. So again, started off with 1 bread truck to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 10. And now I have this fairly decent distribution business, delivering for 1 or 2 bakeries. So I'm contracting, buying bread from these bakeries. And this again, so now we're in mid 90s, right? Mid to late 90s. And all the restaurants were, let's see, who can I, Wolfgang Puck and some of the best restaurateurs all over the country were doing different things. And the food channel was starting to take off and people are looking and saying, oh, I can do this in my restaurant. And they were elevating their restaurants, which meant elevating the bread that they were putting out for people. They wanted different bread. So I went to the bakery that I was dealing with and I'm like, hey, my customers want this. Can you do it? No, we are an Italian bread bakery. This is what we do. And God bless them. They knew their lane and they stayed in it. That's fine. And I said, well, would you mind if I go over here and build a bakery and figure it out? They're like, okay, good luck with that one.
Right.
But that being said, Dave, they were kind enough to help me to not because they knew I wasn't looking to take their business away. I was looking to add to mine. Long story short, the restaurant that we were leasing, which was my mom and dad's property, the tenant had, they were not going out of business. The partners were struggling. It was the restaurant was doing phenomenal, but the partner, which I'm always worried about partnerships, did not do well. Right. So they came to us and said, listen, we're not renewing the lease. I said, perfect. I went to my mother and I said, listen, I can take this over, have a restaurant and a bakery. And she's like, a restaurant? I'm like, she goes, you hate the restaurant business. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out. But the whole point of this is I'm going to add on like 2,000 square feet to the back of it, Ma, and I'm going to build a bakery. And she's like, all right, honey, I'm okay, figure it out. And again, I did. So that's exactly what we did. We opened a restaurant / bakery. That was a disaster, Dave. That wasn't good. For multiple reasons.
Was it because you didn't like the restaurant business?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Dave, there's a word you say didn't like, or I say hate.
Yeah.
Never, and this is a business advice I give to everybody. Never go in a business that you hate. That makes no sense. My thought process was this. I need a bakery. I didn't know anything about a bakery. So I had to teach myself how to bake. I had to teach myself how to make what we wanted, right? Which was specialty type breads. And I knew if I just did that, I would fail. So I'm like, listen, I know the restaurant business. I was in it my whole life. We'll just put the restaurant over here, the bakery over there. The restaurant will pay for the bakery until I figure it out. Okay. The opposite happened. We opened the restaurant. I hired the wrong people. My fault 100%. They were terrific people. I hired friends instead of hiring professionals.
Yeah.
And not that they weren't professionals. It just didn't work, right? I didn't hire the right people, which is another very hard lesson that I learned. And it basically, between my disdain of the restaurant business and their non-knowledge of running a restaurant, it just went bad fast. Open to fanfare, We did tremendous business in the first couple of weeks, first couple of months, and the bakery was sort of successful, even though I was trying to figure out the bread, but it just went, within a year or two, it went bad fast. That being said, I got the distribution part, the bakery built up enough that it was supporting the mortgage. I didn't need the restaurant. So I basically went to the people, my friends that are running the restaurant. I said, guys, listen, you got 6 months for this to make money. It was costing me somewhere between $4,000 and $7,000 a week negative. So my distribution business is paying for this week after week after week. The restaurant's doing bad.
And by this time, are they, the staff, also becoming unhappy working there because it's such a stressful, losing environment?
Dave, you obviously have been in business for a long time, because only an entrepreneur, only somebody that's been through it, only somebody that's run staff knows that. It was miserable. It was miserable, Dave. I was miserable. They were miserable. And I brought consultants in. I brought, I looked for every way to bring this out of the black hole. And you at some point, you have to call uncle. Now, that being said, I'm the guy, Dave, that I don't want to call uncle. I will work 22 hours a day. I will, as hard as possible, I'll work myself to death. But there is a point that all the work in the world does not solve the problem. So all the money in the world doesn't solve the problem.
This is an important one. This is important. I've been relentless my whole life. And I have pursued to my detriment beyond the point of reason, because I couldn't recognize the difference between a need to go a different direction and giving up. I wasn't.
Pivot.
So
it's the pivot, Dave.
Yeah. So how have you learned through that pain, maybe, to recognize the difference between when you need to change direction? It's not quitting, it's not giving up, it's not being wishy-washy, but it's the right thing to do. How do you get that alignment within you so you can recognize it?
It's hard. It's really hard, right? Especially when you don't like to fail. Especially when you are in your head, if I let this go, that is my personality, that is me, that I'm the failure. So I learned that that's not the truth. Like, failing.
You've let it become your identity. And
Absolutely.
The idea of not hitting a goal that you no longer wanted seems so threatening to your identity that you are going to painfully drag yourself and your now becoming non-friends through a failure onto this goal that you didn't want anymore, just to prove that you could do it.
100%. And what made me realize is this wasn't my money, Dave. This was my family's money. This was money that everybody in my family trusted me. So, and to be honest, looking back, if it was my money, I might have gone down with the ship, because just like you said, it was my personality. It was, I'm letting everybody down, but I'll figure it out. So knowing it wasn't my money, and if I failed, I wasn't only the one failing. My family was failing. And bankruptcy, oh my God, it means different today than what it meant to me back then, Dave. Bankruptcy was the worst word you could say.
It was like divorce used to be 2 generations ago.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And I was not going to go there. I didn't let my mother go bankrupt, and I'm not going bankrupt. And I have this business over here that's doing tens of thousands of dollars a week. My bread business was phenomenal.
And were you enjoying the bread business, the distribution?
Loved it. I loved the people. I loved figuring out how to make new breads. I loved everything in the beginning. I loved it. And this thing is dragging me down. And I had a lot of, oh Jesus moments, Dave. I had a lot of moments in my office. I can remember with my hand in my head saying, John, what are you doing? What are you proving to anyone? So your family was in the restaurant business forever and you can't make it work. Does that make you a worse person? Yet you have a tremendously successful business over here. You're going to make one swallow the other. And Dave, I've seen this, I've dealt with hundreds and thousands of businesses, restaurants, delis, supermarkets. I see it happen all the time. And I saw it.
It's a common problem. a common problem.
A restaurateur has 5 restaurants. One is making the whole empire come down. They sell the successful restaurants and pour everything into the one that's, I'm like, what are you doing? And you can see from being outside, you can see it's like you're looking at a window and saying, dude, what do you, no, don't do that.
You
No,
can't
no, no,
see it
John.
when you're in I did it myself. I
Yeah.
did it myself. And when I ran out of money, all that I had made, then I started borrowing money until I couldn't support it. Now you just all you have left over is obligation, and the income just keeps nosediving.
And good money after bad, Peter to Paul. And I don't know, I don't have a perfect answer for you why I figured it out. I just did, mainly because it wasn't my money. And I had said, again, I gave an ultimatum. I'm like, I told him, I do not know how to run a restaurant. I can, well, that's not. So I do know how to run a restaurant. I don't want to be over here. It's taking my time. I'm going to be over here. We had meetings. This is not brain surgery. This is what you have to do. A, B, C, and D. You have to be prepared for people to come in. That your prep, everything's got to be prepped. People have to have value, and they have to get fast service. It doesn't have to be phenomenal 5-star food. It does not have to be. It has to be good, and you have to give them a good value. Period. At the end. And they have to have a nice experience. When they come in, they see Sally at the front door. Hey, John, nice to see you again. This is not brain surgery. Gave them a roadmap. They did not follow it. And I said, we have 6 months. In 6 months to the day, if this restaurant isn't breaking even, I don't even want it to make money. If it's not breaking even, the doors will get locked. Okay, no problem. We'll fix it. It never happened. 6 months to the day, David. I brought everybody together. We were losing less. We were losing maybe $3,000 a month. They thought they knocked it out of the park. I'm like, okay, guys, today's the last day. They looked at me like I had 1,000 heads. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I talking about? We're done. Restaurant's closed. We're door keys going in the door. Bakery's taking over. The whole dining room's going to be ovens. We're going to put a proof box here. I'm like, I'm like, I'm done. And they're like, well, we did so much better. I'm like, okay, so we're not losing $6,000 a week. We're losing $3,000 a week. That's not good in the business world.
No,
again,
not better enough.
Right. So I was definitive. It was the best, Dave. It was the best decision I ever made.
And it's probably good for them too.
100%.
And the ones that learned took that experience and went on to better lives because of it.
1,000%. 1,000%. That everybody, I'm not going to say everybody. There was a couple individuals that, they didn't learn from it. And I'm sad about it because, again, they were good friends at the time. I wish them no ill. I didn't set them up, Dave. I didn't set them up for success. It's not their fault. It was mine. If I gave them somebody with more knowledge and somebody that was in charge, they may have been that person at some point, but I didn't. And I tell them, I blame myself. This is not your fault. It's mine. I didn't hire the right people. I was immature. I thought hiring my friends, they know how to cook, they'll be fine. And I didn't give them the right tools. My fault. I'm sorry. And we tried and we failed. And it is what it is. So long story short, closed the restaurant. The bakery just took off. And from that point, we grew out of that building. And then very soon after, I went and bought a 25,000 square foot facility a couple towns over. I bought that property. I was buying other properties because, some of my mentors and some of the people that I saw do the best in the business the bakery wasn't the only thing. They were always buying real estate on the side.
McDonald's is a real estate business. Dairy Queen, which isn't so hot anymore, but still is a real estate. People that really understand those kinds of businesses know that.
Yes, 100%. And I learned from that. And I learned from my dad. That few $100,000 piece of property was worth millions after. We subdivided, we cut it up, we sold it. It was probably that again was a very big decision in my family's life, my mom's, mine, and my sister's. It was life-changing, right? That I could have sold it, paid the vendors off. And by the way, all those vendors, I think my dad was about $500,000 in debt, right?
Which back then was a lot of money.
Now, I'm not going to say that we paid off every penny. I went to every vendor and said, listen, this is the situation. My mom is not going bankrupt unless you push. I owe you $10,000. Can we do 4? No. Can we do 6? Yes. 6,000 it is. I'm going to pay you $6,000 over X amount of months. Fine, John, that's not a problem. Just make sure the payments are there every month.
Yeah.
Every month we paid them. It took me and my mom years, but they got paid, and my mom didn't go bankrupt. And again, it was another smart decision. And I say that a lot. Like, people are like, oh, how are you so successful? You string together smart decisions. You don't really know they're smart, but you feel that they're smart. I knew I was being told the wrong things when these professionals were saying, just sell it, John, just sell it. I'm like, no, like for hundreds of years, all these people, real estate, like, why would I sell a prime piece of real estate in the worst market possible? Right. So again, moving along, it was called the Harvest House. I had the bakery. So now let's bring it up to 2018. 2018, bakery's doing well. I'm going to the gym a lot, and I feel something on my back. I'm like, wow, that's annoying. So I went to the doctor, and they're like, oh, it's no big deal, John. It's like a little bump. You have what's called a pilonoleual cyst. That pilonoleual cyst, which basically is an ingrown hair, didn't go away with all the medicine and stuff they gave me. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't we send you for an MRI? Well, that was one of the worst days of my life. Send me for an MRI. Yeah, you have a mass at the time about the size of a softball. That's not good. And the local hospital's like, you need to go see Sloan in New York. This is a problem. Went to Sloan. They determined it was cancer. They determined it was malignant. And they also determined that it was one of those cancers that I'm probably not going to survive.
Isn't that an odd place to get a cancer? I mean,
so I had what's called rectal anal cancer, colon cancer. It was all encompassing.
I see.
So, not to go into a long story, but from when I was born, I had problems down there. They fixed me. I was fine. Who knows if that led into this? I don't know. But they're like, listen, this is life threatening. You have to, you got to get it operated on. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I had things everywhere. This property, this business, we had an ice cream store, we had the bakery, I had, residential, I had commercial. It was a mess.
Were you managing all these assets
all of
yourself?
All of it. All of
so
it.
You pulled you out of that. All of a sudden, the management piece is vacant.
100%. So just think, Dave. Just think. So I'm 49 at this point.
Your dad's
Correct.
age. Yeah.
Correct. I'm running everything. Right? Listen, am I the baker? Not today, but tomorrow I might be if somebody doesn't show up. Am I scooping ice cream? Not today, but tomorrow if somebody shows up, I am. Am I the bread driver? Not today, but tomorrow if somebody doesn't show up, I'm the bread driver. So I was putting fires out constantly, and I had said, this will be 10 times worse than when my dad passed away for both my wife at the time, which we're divorced now, and for my 2 young children. I'm like, I cannot leave them with this. So I went on a mission, Dave. I went on a mission. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell it all. We're going to put a war chest in the bank, and everybody's going to be fine. And the doctors are like, well, how long is that going to take? I'm like, I could probably get it done in 2 years. They're like, you don't have 2 years. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this thing's growing like centimeters a week.
You got 2 minutes. You got not 2 years. You got 2 minutes.
But I'm Superman. It's not a problem. Like, I'm good. I can still walk around. Meanwhile, they're zapping me. They're like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna give you the chemo treatments. We're gonna give you the radiation. You're gonna go through all that. We're gonna try to shrink it so when we do operate on it, when you're ready, you mental patient, it will be smaller. And that's what they did, and it helped. And it sucked, Dave.
Did the chemo, just knock you down energy?
So, yes, I'm a high energy person. So it may be just a step, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was, and they told me this, they're like, listen, you're going to have, your hair is going to be fine, thank God, but you're going to have this particular chemo you're going to go through, you're going to have super sensitivity to cold. I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, well, if you drink something cold like ice, you're going to feel like you're drinking razors. If you touch or go into a cold atmosphere, you're going to feel like there's 1,000 pins going through your skin. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of tough. I own a wholesale bakery, and I'm in and out of the freezer, which is the size of a building, like, I don't know, 10 times a day. And they're like, yeah, that's going to suck for you. And it sucked for me, Dave. It was not fun.
You couldn't get like a Michelin Man suit?
I did. I had it. I had it all. I have pictures of me in exactly that, a Mission Man suit, gloves on, and it didn't matter. It helped. Scarf, but I mean, still, no matter what, and there's sometimes that I'm not going to spend 20 minutes getting suited up to run in and get puff pastry. I'm just going to run in, get it, and come out. So it was a challenging time. Meanwhile, I literally had this mass growing so much that you could see it on my backside. Like it was a ball. It became like it protruded. You could, like my butt tissue, you could see it. It was ridiculous. Like when I drove, I had to prop myself up with my hand in order to not put pressure on it. And so, long story short, I sold the bakery, which was a miracle. It was a miracle that I could sell that thing. And I didn't sell the ice cream store right away because I figured my wife at the time could run that. I sold all the properties, and I did exactly what I said. I put a war chest in the bank. It was about a year and a half. I told the doctors, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. That my family has enough money in the bank that we have one business left. We have a couple stragglers of properties left. I'm good. I went in. It was October 21st, 2019, 2020. I don't remember, but it was definitely October 21st. And they told my family I had to sign everything. I had to have everything ready because they told me I wasn't going to make the operation. So all the planning, all the estate planning, all of that was done. I was literally still signing papers the day that I went in. At a 27-hour operation, Dave. So it was 12 hours on my front side. They took me out for 4 hours. I was still in a coma. And
Were
then
they removing tumors throughout your system? Is that?
They basically removed my whole insides. I have a picture of it. The doctors didn't want to give it to me, but I'm so proud of it. Yeah. It looks like an octopus, right? So they basically cut out organs that the tumors were attached to. So it's just this massive. Look, so the base was like a basketball, and then it has this huge trunk, right? It looks like a dragon. And 27 hours later, I came out. I think they gave me 5 or 6 transfusions. I did redline a couple times, and I pulled out of it. And that took me about a little over a year it took me about 3 months to figure out how to walk again because I was in bed for months upon months. So it was a long journey back. And again,
so what did you do to keep yourself going mentally? I mean, that's a trauma to the body, which of course is hard on the brain, hard on the psyche. It's in fact, some could give up, right? You could say, that's it, I give up, I surrender, and boom, you're out.
So David, I have for a long time, I have a bunch of friends, and for no fault to them, but they're depressives, right? They go into depression, and they have dark times, and I always would look at them with sympathy and say, I don't understand that. I don't understand how that can happen. Empathetic to them, but not understanding, right? Not understanding, like having a true understanding of it. That being said, after that, not being able to get out of bed, the hospital, Memorial Sloan Kettering, one of the most famous hospitals in the world, had to order this bed for me, Dave. This was a special bed that the hospital did not even have. It was sand and water. It was special because they had to keep me moving, right? It was absurd. So I was in this bed for weeks, and I couldn't get out of it. So imagine spending all that time in a room staring at a ceiling when you're used to being out and with customers 7 days a week, 10, 15 hours a day. So I got to a very, very, very dark place. And I remember getting there one night, and my roommate had said, I had a roommate, he goes, John, are you okay? I'm like, nope, not okay. I am not okay. And that was a tough time, Dave. And I said, this is what people with depression go through. And I'm like, this is horrible. Nobody deserves to be here. And the nurses had always said, John, you have to ask for the medication before you start to hurt. And I was always one of those tough guys. I'm like, it's fine. And they're like, it's not fine, dude. You have 2 gaping holes in your stomach. You have a gigantic hole in your back. It is not fine. You need medicine. So I finally started listening to, because Dave, I was so concerned of getting addicted to the medication, because I saw so many employees, Dave, so many employees go down that road of the pain medication to heroin. Tens of employees that did that. Some of them passed away. Some of them never got their life back. I was not going to be that guy. But I had a sweetheart of a nurse that, she pain medicine nurse. She goes, John, listen to me. We won't let you get there, because I told her my concerns. They gave me, they monitored me well. Memorial Sloan Kettering, I can't say enough about them. A phenomenal place. And I started taking the medications. I was feeling better, and but I'll never forget that, Dave. The mental angst that I went through. Because hold on. So it was 2020. Because you know what was going on, Dave, when I went in? You know what was going on, Dave, when I went into the hospital?
The other big C word?
Yes, the word that we can't say because we'll get canceled, right? Yeah. So I walked in. I couldn't have family. I couldn't have anyone come. Nobody. No one, Dave. And I was there for months. And that was not cool. That was not good. So again, you can imagine the mental place that I went to, the mental place that I was in for a little bit. And again, I came out of it, which is phenomenal. Like, I look at myself now, I just literally this morning, I took my 12-year-old to the gym. I go 5 days a week. He's in football. He just got hurt. So we're doing upper strength. So and I look in the mirror and shake my head.
Never wish that trauma any more than you would on anybody. However, having come through it, what changed inside of you? How did your perceptions, your perspectives, maybe your levels of gratitude adjust?
Phenomenal amount of gratitude for, I get so upset with people. What's going on in today, Dave, being in America. The people are afraid of putting the flag out there. They're afraid of, saying they love America. They're afraid of, our country. And is it going bad? No, we are in the most wonderful place in the world. And I've traveled the world. I've been to Europe. I haven't been to Asia yet, but I plan on going to Asia. I've been in many places in this world. And the gratitude level went from, let's say, 50 points to 1,000. Just being able to step out of my bed, put my feet on the ground, and look at my 2 kids every day, it's unmeasurable. So now I said, listen, I don't have to work. I have a YouTube channel. We talk about it. And on the YouTube channel, I don't have to work. But I have inside of me the non-ability to work. And I don't know, here, when you say perspective, this is where it changed my perspective. And I battle with this daily, Dave. So before all that stuff going on, I barely saw my children. Barely saw them. I barely saw them grow up.
Too busy.
Can't, okay, I'm going to go to Disney. Okay, we're going to spend a couple days here and there. I wasn't mentally there, Dave. I wasn't mentally there. I had PTSD because my phone would go off and I'm like, who's not coming in? Listen, I just worked 15 hours. I got to go back on a truck now.
Say, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but some people have told me that could lead to divorce, but that's another subject.
So it did. It did.
Yeah.
So twice it did. So my first was because of not because of the restaurant, because of me. And my second, again, because of me, but a lot going on. So my perspective is much, much different now on the amount that I work. I want to be, so we had talked about, entrepreneurship, and I'm starting up this new business of lending. This is how we met. And I'm like, you know what? I could do so well in this. I could, my mind starts going on the amount of money I can make and the things that I can do. And, because I loved finance, Dave, and I never really did the finance part besides buying properties and doing that. And now I'm like, I'm really doing what I love. I love doing this. Now, I've lent money over the years to employees, to friends, to families. I've done that. But this is another level that I'm going to, right? Yep. This is a level that I'm doing it professionally for commercial. And I don't know the people I'm lending. And some of it's my money because I lend my money out, but most of it's other people's money. So This is a whole different thing. I can literally get lost in this. And me and you had talked before we turned the cameras on, and you had said you're in the building stage, and I'm sorry, Dave, how old are you?
I'm 71 today.
71. God bless you. Today, happy birthday. That's
Well,
amazing.
March 14th. I just mean as we speak. Yeah.
Right. Well, happy birthday anyway. Happy belated.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
71, you. And you have that feeling of you're in a building stage, right?
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like I'm just getting started, like I'm a kid, is what
it's
it feels
amazing.
like.
It's amazing. And I'm 54. I just went through all of that we talked about, and I feel the same way. But I have 2 young children. I absolutely adore being their Uber driver everywhere. I don't care what they have. I drive them. My ex-wife, she didn't work back when we were married. Now she's working, so she can't take them all. Not a problem. I take them to football. I take them to anything and everything, and I absolutely love it. And I try to spend as much time with both of them as possible. Like I said, I just
what are their
literally left
ages?
them.
What are their ages?
So
now?
Brielle is 16. She's going to be 17 in a couple in next week. She's going to be 17. She's going to we're going to get her a car, and Giovanni is 12.
Now,
And
12 probably still likes to be with you. Does 16 going on 17 like to be with you? I mean, I'm just not you specifically, but we're talking about
so my son is a mini me, and whenever he can, we love being together. My daughter, who I absolutely adore and listen, I'll kill for both of them. But my daughter, who I absolutely love, wants nothing to do with me, Dave.
That's normal.
Nothing to do with me.
Of course,
it's normal, but my divorce is so new, right, that it hurts, right? Like, I know she's 16 and I know that was coming, but you add on top of that the complication of being divorced. Both of you are seeing different people. How do you bring that into it? Your daughter thinks, that you're the reason that this whole thing blew up. She doesn't have her gorgeous house anymore. She doesn't have all the things she had. Now she lives with mom, sometimes with dad. Like, it's a lot for a 16-year-old. It is the biggest reason that we hadn't gotten divorced before. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to go into my whole relationship with my ex-wife, but it was a tumultuous one. She's an awesome person. I have nothing against her. We just weren't meant for each other. And the kids saw that. So the kids could either see us being miserable and arguing all the time, which was my parents, which was horrible, not great, not a good, not a good structure. Or we can separate and stop the fighting and try to give them a normal life. And I hope that's what they see, but they don't see it right now.
They're too young to get that depth. Yeah,
they're too young. But
the best
I appreciate
you can now is give them the stability, not let them wedge the two of you and your ex against one another. It's not easy.
It's not easy,
and nor say unkind things about the other, right? The other partner. Yeah.
Yes. It's a dance, right? And if you're not on the same page in the marriage, you're not going to be on the same page in the divorce. So it makes things difficult. We do it. It is what it is. And the kids, I'm hoping, are going to be better for it when they look for partners and they look for relationships. And that was the biggest thing. I didn't want them to constantly see, when your daughter at the time, so she was 13, 14, says, "Daddy, you really shouldn't be married to mommy." You take that to heart, right? Yeah. When your child is telling you that, first of all, how bad am I screwing her up? And second of all, how bad am I screwing us up? And when you say perspective, when you go through that and you're here, right, and you're on the earth, you're like, well, I don't need to be miserable. She doesn't need to be miserable. No. Why are we miserable? Let's not be miserable, right? And we'll figure the rest out. And that's where we are now, figuring the rest out. I hope she's happy. I know I'm happy. And again, it's a challenge with the kids. And I know when my son gets older, because I remember I was at my dad's hip up until probably 14, 15. And then I knew everything, Dave. He couldn't do anything right. And I know that day's coming with my son. I just super loving the attention and what we have right now, just like I did with my daughter when she was younger. But I wasn't there for my daughter when she was younger. I was there, Dave, but I wasn't there. And I think that's probably the most difficult thing that she's going through now. Like, Daddy, you weren't around that back then. Like, all of a sudden you're around and you want to be my friend. And I told her, I'm not your friend, Brielle. I am your father, right? First and foremost, I am your dad. And my goal and my job is to navigate you through life, to give you the tools to be kind, to know what you're doing, to be smart, right? To navigate life, because life is so hard. My goal and my job is not to be your friend. And I don't know if that resonated with her. It probably didn't, especially, she was older, but that is my job, Dave. My job is to make sure she's a great person. And she might not like me every time the decisions that I make. And that hurts. It really does, because I want, you want to be close with your kids.
But think
But
about this. If you only make decisions for anybody in your life so they'll like you,
yeah,
now you're running the risk of being disingenuous,
100%.
doing things that actually are not good for them because you're too selfish to accept their anger.
Yes. Yes. Hard things are hard, but hard things normally are the best. Easy things are easy. Easy things are fun, right? It would be easy to be the fun dad. It would be easy to buy them whatever they wanted. But that's not going to help them. If I'm not on this earth, that's not going to help them. My dad was my friend, but wasn't my best friend, right? My dad yelled at me. My dad scolded me. My dad said, no, that's wrong. You got to do it this way. And it was the best thing he did in the 23 years I was on this earth that he was here. It was the best thing that he did, right? And I took that and I take that to my kids. And I hope someday that they look back and they look at all these YouTube things and they learn something from it. And to be honest, not to go off on a tangent, why did I start a YouTube channel? It wasn't because I wanted to be some YouTuber. It was because I didn't think I was going to be here, Dave. I didn't think I was going to be here. And I'm like, you know what? If I start a YouTube channel and I start talking about the stuff that I know, I'm going to leave that to my kids. And they might be like, there's a million things I wanted to ask my dad and I couldn't. Right? If I have this and I'm not here, or even if I am here, hopefully maybe they'll watch it one day and they'll get pointers. And
So
that's really why I started
talking about is purpose and legacy and needing to share what you've learned with others that might be interested in taking what you've learned, putting it in their life, and improving the quality of their life because of something that we did of value. Now we're getting to the purpose of living, aren't we? Because did you ever make enough money so that you were, we'll call it loosely, happy? Because the answer I know is no, right?
No.
You can't
think it does, but it doesn't.
No, cars and houses and all those things are nice.
Matter.
They're very nice. And there's happy people that have those things.
Yes.
But having those things don't make you happy.
No, they don't. And when you have it, you want more. And when you get more, you're like, so yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy that, I would, again, remember when we started, I was that kid, go 80s, Gordon Gekko, greed is good. I'm going to make as much money. I'm going to be a bazillionaire. And I thought that would make me happy. And the really only thing that made me happy was my family. Right? Which obviously I was about to lose if I wouldn't be here. And knowing that, that's where I put the focus today. Knowing that, that's where I really am hypersensitive to today. Do I want to make money, Dave? Absolutely. I love business. I love the capitalist system. I freaking love America. You can't do in other places, most places, what we do here every day. This is a phenomenal country. And I hope and I pray every day that people realize how special this country is. And until this country implodes, I'm going to make as much money as possible. That being said, I'm also going to take time for my family. I'm trying to balance as I get older. Balance is tough. Dave, balance is tough. And I always say, I don't know if I'm good at it, and I'm probably not, but I have a much different perspective now than when I did, let's even say 4 or 5 years ago.
So what I hear you describing is in order to have a life of value, you need balance. Now, balance what, right? So you need perspective. You need to find out what's important to you. And for you, almost dying, let you get down to what's really important to you. Family. The YouTube channel is a sample of that, right? Because the reason I started, I had no intention of this ever turning into money. That's not the point for this show. I play guitar. It's not the point to ever make money. I played for a living, but I don't play to make money. There's many things I do I go for 5-mile walks in the 110-degree heat. I do that because it helps keep me balanced,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
What you're talking about. So you said something wonderful, that there are so many wonderful, great, fantastic opportunities. And because of social media and how the news works, people could get the impression that the planet is coming to an end. It's too late. It's over. All these greedy capitalists are destroying the planets. We're all killing each other and eating babies. You could get that impression.
You can.
But in reality, there's more than that going on, isn't there? There's a beautiful opportunity. So if you were going to share with our audience the depth that you've gathered, now you know how to work hard. You're learning how to balance. We understand that balance is a practice based on what's important to you. If our audience, after seeing this today, we're going to do one thing now, something just as easy to not do that could have a powerful impact on their life, what would that be?
This is going to sound simplistic and it's going to sound too easy, but it's the truth. And I mentor people. I'm part of what's called SCORE. It's a free mentoring service from the government. And I mentor people. And the one thing that I see happen all the time, Dave, is people get ideas, they get excited, they want to do things, but they get scared. And the one thing they don't do 95% of the time is start. And people don't realize how easy it is to start. People make starting so hard. But what do I need to do, John? Do I have to do the business plan? Do I have to go to a bank? Do I have to do? No, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is start. Get a book, get an idea, write stuff down, and start. It took me almost a year to start my YouTube channel because like posting it, right? Because I was so scared. Like, who's first of all, who's going to listen to me? Second of all, like it's frightening. Even though you look into this camera and it's not really scary. It's scary. So you just start. And I started one day and I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I put it up and it was horrible. I didn't take it down and I never will because it's horrible. If you go back into my very first videos, and even now they're not great, but they were horrible back then. But the one thing I did was start, and I got better a little every day. And I did a little more every day and a little more every day. You can't do the little more every day if you don't start. And it's the simplest thing in the world, and people don't do it. They make excuses. They have their friends tell them why they can't 9,000 ways. They have people that love them tell them they can't do it 9,000 ways, which I also had. But I'm like, who's going to get hurt? Nobody. Who is it going to hurt if I start this business, this side hustle, this other thing, this other job? It's not going to hurt anybody. It's not hurting anybody. The only person it's hurting is you, because you didn't start. And that's all it takes. And it sounds way easier than it is. It's hard. But if you want to do something, you want to be great, you have these ideas in your head, just start. And guess what? If you fail, who cares? You just learned. And that's another thing that we had talked about, that, failure was horrendous to me, but it was the best lessons I could have ever learned. The best lessons. So that's it, Dave, starting.
So start, practice.
Yep.
Notice what's not going right.
Yep.
Error correct. Because otherwise, have you ever met people that know the theory of doing many things? In fact, they're eloquent about the theory of doing it. There's nobody better at the theory. They're professors of theology. But if they've done nothing.
Yes.
They've done nothing.
100%.
So you can.
And then you have an uneducated person, right? And listen, education or not educated doesn't matter. But then you have this uneducated person or somebody that dropped out of school that becomes a billionaire, and you look at him and go, why? Why? Well, he kind of started. He did it. He took the first step. He actually did it. He didn't theorize. He didn't put 10 business plans together. He didn't talk to 1,000 people and then not do it. He started. And it sounds simplistic. Are you going to be a billionaire because you started? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, you're not if you don't start. You're guaranteed not to be if you don't start. Period. The end.
Yeah, take a chance, take some risks. I've talked
100%.
to people that want to be in business for themselves that work for employers now. And I said, you don't have to quit your job and take all your savings and kick to the moon. Why don't you start a gig on the side,
Yep.
experiment, learn. When you get it up to the point where it can now sustain you, then you can leave the day gig along and you can grow it. You don't need to, it's not like you're going to be a homeless person if you start your own deal, right?
Yep. 100%.
Well, I would like to thank you so much. It's as delightful as I suspected it would be. You've got a wonderful story. I applaud your adjustment to paying attention to your children. I wish I would have done that with my daughter. I can tell you that when you don't and you've missed that opportunity, she's like 47 now. That I've had.
Never too late, Dave. Never too late.
Never too late. But it, of course, as we always would say, it would have been better if you were there in the first place.
100%.
For our audience, please do this. Give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. If you've got guests or you're someone that would like to be on the show, there's no right or wrong. We just want people to share their stories of how they overcame challenge. And maybe each one of us can share it with somebody else. And between the one of us and the two of us, we can have, over time, millions of people whose lives we positively impacted because what? We just started. Because we just started. Thank you so very much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Dave. It's been terrific.
Do you want any of our audience to be able to get a hold of you about Star or something?
Yeah, so I have my YouTube channel, which is, if you just go to Google and type in John Berruti, my name, all my stuff comes up. But the YouTube channel is Berruti Success. I have a blog that's thebestbizlife.com. But again, if you just Google my name, all my stuff comes up. John Berruti, that's Berruti, 1Ti, Berruti.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for watching. We'll see you guys in the future. You have a wonderful day.